why I am creating English content as a Dutch person. I actually do get this question a lot, especially, of course, from Dutch people. They're asking me, are you from the UK or the US, or were you raised bilingual? Thank you very much for thinking that, but no, I'm not. But I do notice that this is kind of something different or strange, or maybe something that people don't really tend to do, which I understand as well. And so for this episode, I wanted to dive deep into why did I actually choose to speak in English? Why this is the best choice for me in my business right now. So what I noticed when I was preparing this episode was that the reason why I'm speaking English is actually super personal. So I'm taking you on a journey on how this started, and also I'm giving you advice at the end of the episode, how this works for you, how this could work for you. And the reasonings that you can come up with, and ideas that you can have, by making that choice, because I know it is, and it can be a big choice. All right, let's start at the beginning. Ever since, this sounds really big, but it is what it is. Ever since I can imagine, I am fascinated by the Anglo-Saxon culture. So UK, US, everything, in the English-speaking world. It started with the Spice Girls, and I really remembered thinking at 10 years old, this is really what I thought, I would never be able to dominate the world in Dutch. So I guess I remember thinking this, and this is where my decision process already started. So now I'm 37, and 27 years later, it was a little earlier that I decided this, but I knew that was never going to happen. So I remember wishing I was born in the UK. This is no joke, right? I'm being very serious here, because I thought language back then was so important, and back then I wanted to become famous, of course, and I thought it was much easier in the UK because that's what I was focused on. I didn't really know a lot about America yet, and I thought becoming famous is going to be so much easier when you're living in the UK than it's going to be in the Netherlands. And I was looking at the Spice Girls like they were kind of my big sisters, and I was thinking, so they already have one step ahead of me, because of the language. And this may sound a little bit petty that I'm going all the way back to my childhood years, but I actually really believe that this is why I want to, and why I am able to keep this up for almost 2 years now in my international business coaching practice, is because already at a very young age, I decided that the English language is going to help me make my dreams come true. And so far I've had clients from the UK, Spain, Australia, Ecuador, all because of offering my programs and content in English. And actually I wouldn't miss those clients and those people and those connections, and also the international connections that's happening through, not just through me, but also for my clients, my Dutch clients. I really wouldn't miss it for the world. So that's where it started. And then fast forward from when I was 10 to my early 20s. So at my university, I studied cultural heritage. There were opportunities to do internship internationally. Mind you, I had to arrange this all by myself, but there was the opportunity to do this. And there was an office, or a one-person office, who would help you arrange for this. And without blinking an eye, I decided then and there that I wanted to go to New York City. I had never been there, but I thought an internship was a good reason to do so. And I did this. And I was very determined to do this. And I applied to 50 different museums. And I had to fill out so many forms, and it was horrible, getting the visa. And actually, sometimes I'm thinking back and I'm thinking, wow, if I could have done that actually, at age 21 or 2, I think I was 21, I can do really literally everything. once you make it there, you can make it anywhere. I'm not sure I made it there, but what they say in, or what Frank Sinatra says in New York. Anyway, 2 museums replied. So I sent it out to 50 different museums, a little bit of standardized email. But I thought, I just have to, bet on all horses. Well, not all actually, because 50 museums in New York City, there's much more, but 2 museums replied. The Guggenheim Museum, which is really one of my favorite museums, and the Chelsea Art Museum, and that's where I ended up. So the Guggenheim basically offered an assistant of an assistant of an assistant of an assistant job, and I was not really feeling like I would be challenged. Yes, it's nice to have Guggenheim on your resume, but the work that I would do would be really, I chose to do an interesting job in New York. So the Chelsea Art Museum offered a curatorial assistant internship. So I jumped on that because I was actually involved in different exhibitions, creating them. A beautiful exhibition, which I helped create, called Iran Inside Out. This was back in 2000. Well, it's not even 20. I wanted to say 2011, but I think it was 2009 or 2008. I don't really exactly remember. But anyway, so it was one of those years, and it was really nice working together with the director and the curator, and that internship has changed my life. I'm not going to lie about this. I worked really hard to get that because this was not, I didn't know anybody in New York yet. I have to stress this, right? Maybe you're thinking, oh, she's just, she just got through, because she had some contacts. No, I didn't know anybody. I did make it my business to know people, by the way. I was very, very vocal about wanting to go to New York. I, sometimes visited some, Dutch people in New York, gatherings and everything. And I was very much into networking at that time, beginning of in my 20s, because I thought, yes, I'm going to need people because I don't have money. And I'm not saying that, I want to get, I want to get money from people, but I was just like, if I want to be in, I need to know people. And I don't have parents who can just say, oh, you know what, here's a couple of €1,000, we'll buy you in. No, that was not the case at all. Actually, when I left New York, when I finished my internship, I actually had to, cut my credit cards because, my bank told me to. So, that happened. It's okay. It was a wonderful experience, but it was actually very expensive. And, this was all fixed within 1 or 2 months. So it was all good and, a lot of stress, but the stress was worth it. And so this internship has changed my life. So, I was really coming from just the desire to live in New York, just thinking that it would be nice. Actually, if I would have known, all the work that I had to put in, I'm not really sure if I would have done it, but that's another story. But it really changed my perspective of how big and interesting the world is. And in the Netherlands is so if you're not from the Netherlands, you're listening to this, probably you are, because I'm also talking about this in English. So it might be that you're international. I know this, by the way, because I see from which countries people are listening. So the Netherlands is a very small country. It is actually really small, especially square meter wise, but also, there's 18 million people living in the Netherlands right now, a little bit less, but it's going to be at the end of this year. And so 18 million, that's not a lot, compared to other countries or cities or whatever. So, and that to me, of course, since I was 10, I was always very fascinated by other countries, by international, by intercontinental. So I was always very fascinated. I don't know why. Maybe it was because I was fleeing from something. I don't know. It could be all kinds of reasons, but what I really loved about the internship was not just because I was in New York or in the US, which I really liked to be there, is that it's also really, there were so many different cultures, especially in New York. So I know that in the rest of the US, this is not the same. But so I was working in that museum. I was working with people from Australia, Iran, Lebanon, Italy, Germany, Jamaica, and so much more. So it was not just... And we were all attracted by the US, so that's what attracted us to that city. So people really go there, also to get the inspiration. So it also attracts a certain kind of people. I understand this. And then actually, I remember then and there, I decided that I would love to be based in the Netherlands for my career, but that I still wanted to do many international projects because it's so much more. I love that exchange. I love seeing things from different perspectives. That's also what I did as an interim manager. I always looked at other examples from other countries. This was just my thing. I actually have no explanation for it, why I liked it so much. So I think also this is one of the reasons why people hired me, because I was always thinking big. This is also why my podcast is called Big Business. This is also why my program is called Big Business, because I believe in that, and also Big Life, because I believe in the bigness, standing in your own bigness. And I was not afraid to do that back then. I can actually feel and think more, even bigger. So yeah, so that's a daily reminder for myself, having this show, having my programs and everything, to think bigger myself. So big business is not very much about, big corporation, big team, all those things. I don't believe in that. Bigness lies within. So 2 years ago, after that internship, I got my first job and everything. And so I would do some international projects everywhere. If there was an opportunity, I would always go for it. And through that internship, my network started to be more international. So I would always have, for instance, in my LinkedIn, this was really at the beginning days of LinkedIn, I would just add people and then I would connect to other people and everything. So it was really building from there. So yeah, this just all happened from there. So then 2 years ago, when I decided to go from interim manager to business coach, I knew that content was going to be very important. So when I was an interim manager, I never created any content. Well, I did a little bit, but that was just personal. And also when I was a politician, I was also sharing a lot of content, tweets and everything. But I knew that it was going to be a big decision, so the intention of which language do I actually want to speak. And I actually am one of the very few business coaches in the Netherlands who communicates in English through their content and also in their programs. And, of course, if it's a call with only Dutch people, we, of course, speak Dutch, right? I'm not going to say, we have to do this in English. No, but actually all my pre-recorded videos are in English. My podcast is in English. My newsletter is in English. My LinkedIn and Instagram profile is in English, because I want to be able to I want to be able to be open to anyone who wants to work with me. And I really like this international exchange, not just for me, but also for my current clients and my Dutch clients. So if people work with me, they understand this. They understand this vibe. That even if they haven't done an internship internationally or haven't worked internationally, they know that this is something that I offer. So about 20% of my clients are international, and I'm actually very happy to be able to offer my services to an international crowd, and it really inspires me. So this is my personal story about this. This is my personal reason for this. And so if you get to decide, whether or not you're going to speak in Dutch or in English, one of the things that I see happen, and you'll probably have another reason than me, obviously, because maybe you weren't a Spice Girls fan, and maybe you weren't doing an internship in New York. But what I'm seeing is, sometimes, when you are, what I'm seeing is that Dutch people, it could be coaches, it actually could be anyone, publishers or authors, other people who want to switch from Dutch people who are trying to switch from Dutch to English. So imagine someone speaking Dutch in their content and everything for years on end, and then all of a sudden they make the switch to English. And what I'm seeing, and is that after a few months, they decide to go back to Dutch again. And I think, I understand this because that's, you've built your crowd and everything, and building your audience and priming your audience in a different language is extremely difficult. Also because the Instagram and TikTok, and I think also LinkedIn, by the way, algorithm is very focused on your location. So before you're going to invest in a new content strategy, think about this, right? So even if you're just starting out and you're thinking Dutch or English, and then you have to have your personal reasons, right? You have to think, yes, it's very important for me to work internationally. It shouldn't just be, I just want to make more money. No, it has to come from something from within. And so I want you to think about letting the choice of the language that you're going to speak in be a very personal one. So for instance, speaking English is quite simple to me. I'm not saying that it's very easy, because obviously Dutch, which is my mother tongue language, is much easier. And I'm making mistakes. And sometimes when I'm listening to my podcast, I'm like, oh my, why didn't you find that word? But, I have a solution for that personally, is that I have, for this reason, because I love talking in Dutch. I love talking in general, especially in Dutch. I also have a personal Dutch Instagram account, Sarah Birkenkamp, where I'm actually riffing on Dutch affairs in Dutch. So politics, strange Dutch news, memes, all things that are specifically Netherlands related. So yeah, that's a little bit of a solution that I found for myself. I was also thinking maybe of changing my LinkedIn strategy into a more Dutch focus, but then I thought, no, all my international LinkedIn contacts won't like that, so I'm going to stay in. But those are the thoughts that I have. So how you do it is, of course, really up to you. And I just wanted to share why I've done this, because I did get some questions about this. So I want you to think about staying close to yourself. And also, if you're thinking, oh yeah, I want to actually speak in Dutch because I'm so much more comfortable, think about that there is almost 18 million people living in the Netherlands and almost 7 million people in Flanders. I mean, there must be someone who's willing to work with you, right? I mean, I'm not saying that the Dutch language is, I don't think it's very limited, actually. There's still so many people, 25 million, and of course there are segments and everything, and you want to niche down, but it's not just it's really really up to you how you want to work on this. And if you decide, yes, this is a big one. So if you have already created a lot of content in Dutch, try to maintain, if you're switching to English, try to really not give up, and not after a few months, because this will take a lot of time. I think this will take years for people to understand, oh, she's talking in English right now. And then maybe some Dutch people don't like it, but then, yes, you want to expand. So yeah, then if they're not for your expansion, then maybe they're not for you. So have fun deciding, and do let me know if you have successfully transferred from Dutch to English, because I would love to hear success stories. Of course, I want to see it, because I haven't really... I've seen a few, but most of them were a little bit less successful. So please let me know, because I'm very interested, of course, in this topic, seeing how a Dutch person can work internationally, don't have any boundaries and everything. And also don't worry about, this is a final note, I didn't, because I have my notes in front of me, but don't be afraid of speaking Dutch with an accent. I know that I have an accent, I understand that, because it's just who I am, and or if you're making a mistake, Dutch people probably, this is just a cultural thing for the people who are not from the Netherlands. Dutch people will probably tell you, oh, your English is really bad, because Dutch people are very upfront, very honest, and they think they help someone, but they don't. I am not open to that kind of feedback. So just putting it out there. I don't care, because I know that, people who are from, especially the US and the UK, who are And there's of course more countries who have English as their mother tongue language, but so they are always very charmed by my accent and by everybody's Dutch accent or English Dutch accent. Really doesn't matter. So imagine thinking about an Italian person trying to speak Dutch. I mean, that's cute, right? So that's the way that English people see us or American people see us. So don't be afraid of that, and you can learn anything. That's also the thing. You don't have to be raised bilingual to have been able to do it. But don't give up after 1 month. It's practice and talking a lot. And best of luck with deciding this. I'm really curious to your experience. What you think, the reasons why you're doing things the way that you're doing, and also maybe you have a personal story that you want to share with me on why you are speaking in English or maybe French. I don't know what you're focused on, but if you're from the Netherlands or if you're from another country, doesn't really matter to me. But I like this talk about language because it's such a powerful tool to connect to other people. So thank you so much for listening, and I wish you a very, very happy rest of your day.